Today on Pots and Trowels I'm sowing some seeds to produce plants for the garden later on in the year, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden, Darlac and Mr Fothergill's. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, here we are now, third week in April, and it feels very much like spring is here, but it's still a bit too cold, certainly where we are here in North Yorkshire, to be doing too much in the vegetable garden. I normally wait until about early April, second week maybe in April, depending on the weather, before I sow most of the crops directly into the garden. And I'm talking of things like carrots and parsnips and beetroot and peas. They'll all go directly into the soil, but what I can do is to get a head start, and I've already got lettuce growing in the greenhouse, and I'm going to do some seed sowing today of brassicas. So that's the cabbage family. I'm going to sow them over the next month or 6 weeks, but I'm going to do some early ones so we've got some cabbage that we can harvest from the garden in July and August time. And I do them in these cell trays. These are really good. I've had some for years and years and years. So these are plastic, they're all made from recycled plastic, and they will last for many, many years if you look after them. The good thing about them is you can wash them clean, so you're not spreading diseases, and by growing them in these modules, you're getting no root disturbance. So I really like to grow with these. So the compost that I'm using is a peat-free compost this time. In the past, I've still used a little bit of peat in it, but as you probably know, peat in England and Wales is going to be banned in just a few years' time, so we won't be able to buy it. So this is a peat-free one, which is wood pulp. It's got some coir in there as well. It's quite a fine one, so it's supposed to be a good one for seed sowing and pricking out. So I'm just going to break it up to get rid of any lumps. It certainly feels like it should grow okay, so fingers crossed. And then I'm going to fill my tray with it. Occasionally you do get the odd little bit of wood in there, but you get that in all compost, to be honest, so just pick that out and throw that onto the garden. So I'm just filling my tray so it's full, not firming it too much because we don't want to squash all the air out of it. So I'm just giving it a bit of a tap to make sure that all those cells are nice and full. And then I'm going to just get rid of the compost so that if I spill any seeds, they're not in the compost. Now, this is where I'm going to be growing the things like the cabbages in here. So I'm not going to fill it all now, but I'll just show you how I do it. I'm going to do them in fives. So we've got 20 in here, so I can grow 4 varieties. And this is a variety called Primo Golden Acre, an old variety, sort of a globe type cabbage. Good, reliable one. So I'm going to open the packet, and what I'm going to do is sow 2 seeds per cell. Now you can use a dibber or your finger, and I'm just going to make a depression in each of the cells. So I'm doing 5 of Primo, and then I'll do 5 of something else, 5 of something else, and so on. So a little depression about ½ an inch deep, and the seeds of cabbages and Brussels and kales are all just about big enough to handle, as you can see there, and you get loads in a packet. So to ensure that I get at least 1, I'm going to drop 2 into each of there's 3 in there, but I'm not going to get it out. That can stay, that's a bonus one. So a couple or 3 seeds into each of those holes. The rest of them back in the packet. Do it straight away and put it back into the main packet, because otherwise you get a bit mixed up what they are. And if you keep those somewhere cool and dry, they'll save for next year, or we'll sow some more later on in the year. And then what I need to do straight away is to put my label in there, which is that one, and then I'm just going to cover them over lightly. And then I will do the same with that one until I've got my 20 cabbages or kales in there. So really easy way to do it. Another way you can do it is this way, and I do this for the ones that I'm going to grow in containers. I'm intending to grow some of the curly leaf kales in pots. They look quite decorative in the garden. So what I'm going to do is a similar thing. These are fibre pots. So the idea is they will be planted into the garden with the plants in. And I'm actually going to make 3 depressions into each one here. And then my plan is to sow a couple of seeds into each one. Now, if they both germinate, with these, I'm going to leave them all both, because these produce sort of a bushy plant. But where I've done it in the trays where it's a single cabbage, I would thin them out to just 1. And if we've got time, we'll look at that in a few weeks time just to show you how to thin them out. But the idea with these curly ones, this is a red one called Red Boar, which is a really decorative one. You can put it in containers, you can actually plant it into your borders and it wouldn't look out of place. Then I want these to make a nice big bushy plant for a pot, and I've actually run out of seeds. So I'm going to just take those two out and then get another packet later on and finish them off. Again, just cover them over like that, and then they're ready for watering. They're covered over. And again, the label, have I written a label? Yep, I've written a label. So I'm going to pop those just on the floor because they're going to be watered and go into the greenhouse. And then the other thing that I want to sow is leeks, and traditionally leeks would be sown outdoors into the vegetable garden in a drill, and when the seedlings are 6 inches tall or so, you would lift them and separate them and then transplant them. But again, you're disturbing the roots and it sets them back again. So I do them in these cell trays. This was a big one that probably had 100 cells in it, and I've just using an old bread knife, I've just cut it into sort of more usable sizes. We don't always want 150 of one particular thing. So again, with the compost, this is where it's important that it is fairly fine, because it's got to fit into each of these cells and these modules. So just it's the same bit of wood that just keeps going round, that is. So just level it all out, and again a tap to make sure we're full to the top. So it needs to be firm but not compacted. That's the secret. So again, brush that out of the way, and then I am going to use a little dibber for these. So I'm just going to make again that little depression, probably only 1/4 of an inch deep. These are quite small seeds, to be fair, and I'm not going to do them all because I'm sure you've got more interesting things to do than watch me do this. But packet of seed here. This is a hybrid one called Navajo, and really lovely long leeks there. This is one that I'm looking forward to. I've grown it before and it's a good one. It stands well through the winter as well, which is important if you're growing them for the garden. You want them to last for as long as possible in as good a condition as they can be. So these are slightly smaller than the cabbage seed, but they are easy to pick up. Clean my hand on my jeans. They're just small black seeds like that. Now I think we only get about 40 or 50 seeds in a packet of these, so I'm going to sow these singly. So it's just a case of picking one up and dropping it in. Now I'm not sure that Joe's going to actually see that going in, but rest assured, I didn't see it myself, that one, but I'm sure it's there. I'm putting one seed into each of those holes. Because these are F1 hybrids and they cost a bit more, and you normally get a very good germination, to be fair, then I don't want to waste lots of seedlings when I thin them out. So what I would do again then, I'll finish those off a little bit later, just carefully pop those back into there. Don't want to waste that last one. And then what we do is just a case of cover them over and away we go. So it really is as simple as that when we're sowing the seeds. And finally, I'm not going to plant my potatoes out yet. I've mentioned I don't start sowing seeds in the garden until early April. Likewise with my new potatoes. This is a variety called Rocket, which is probably one of the fastest potatoes, 10 to 12 weeks from planting. But our soil is just too cold. But to give them a head start them off in small pots like this. All right, that's a 3.5 inch pot, 4 inch would be fine. Just a bit of compost, half fill it, potato in there so it's just below the surface, and top it off with some compost. So these are great because you can start these off on in a cold greenhouse or even a windowsill, a cool windowsill, so that they will actually start to root, and within a couple of weeks I'll have strong shoots growing through there. So by the time it is warm enough to put them in the garden, I don't do this with all of my potatoes, just a few. I've got some that have just got a bit of a head start. Or what you can do is then take them out of these pots when they've made a root system and about 4 inches of growth, put them into a bigger pot, something about the size of a 10-litre pot full of compost, and grow them as container potatoes. So it just gives you that earlier crop. It's all about extending the season so you can enjoy your fresh vegetables for as long as possible. So all I'm going to do now with those that I've sown, or when I finish sowing them, is put them in the greenhouse, give them a drink. They've got no heat, they've just got enough warmth from the sun shining through, and hopefully within a few weeks' time we'll have lots of seedlings popping up. Well, there you go, all watered in, just waiting for them to germinate now. So thank you for watching, and remember, all the videos we've done over the last 2.5 years you can find on YouTube. Next week we're going to be dealing with the lawn, doing a bit of spring maintenance and feeding it to keep it looking good right the way through the summer. So we'll see you then. Bye.